What's up, bookworms? This is Megan coming at you with another Cantina conversation. Today's episode features a chat with Harry Hunsicker. We're talking about his book, The Life and Death of Rose Doucette. That book is available now. I really enjoyed this story and really enjoyed talking to Harry about it. Just kind of his experience in writing, because this is, I think, his eighth book so far, and kind of just what draws him to the genre of crime fiction and suspense and thriller. It's a good chat. It's really fun. But I'll let you guys get to it. Here is Harry. So today we have Harry Hunsicker. We're talking about The Life and Death of Rose Doucette. That book is available now. Harry, thanks for joining me today. This book, I'm a sucker for suspense. It was so cool, kept me on my toes. Really, a real good page turner. I was invested. I really enjoyed some of the little stuff you put in there. Well, some of it was funny, even though it was probably not meant to be funny. But yeah, I'm excited to dig in deeper today.
Well, great. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So we're going to try to be spoiler free throughout,
Good.
just in case people haven't read it. Do you think you provide a summary real quick so that people can follow along with the
Yes,
conversation?
the elevator pitch for the book is it's about a private detective who's forced to partner with a man who broke up his marriage. And why is he forced to do that, you might ask? Because he's trying to find out who killed his ex-wife. And whoever killed the ex-wife is asked after the detective, the hero of the story, and the guy who broke up the marriage, her current husband. So these two guys that were married to the same woman at different times find themselves in the crosshairs of some bad people who killed the woman, and they're trying to figure out why and what she was into. So they have to put aside their considerable differences and work together.
Yeah, yeah, that was like the fun. I loved that premise. I loved that idea of that awkward and reluctant
Yes.
partnership. And then it's funny because everybody throughout their investigation are trying to dig up clues, unofficial investigation because they're not supposed to
Right.
be digging into it. People whenever who they talk to people or where they're digging up details, everyone's like, You guys are working together." I thought that was so cool, like a way to juxtapose that awkwardness and yeah, the reluctant partnership with kind of the seriousness of and this secret life that they both realize that they're the wife and ex-wife they kept from
Everyone.
everyone. No, it was only a handful of people that knew about what had happened, and then unfortunately the details still the information continues to elude them. Any insight that they can get into the background, trying to be spoiler free again, it just they can't it eludes them. They can't get the details because they're against the clock and they're against some bad people who seem to know where to look and where to find them and where to chase them down.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no, I love that I just love that part of it. It's such an awesome thing. So, can you go into your background a little bit? Because you have I was doing a little research on you. You have a good amount of books, published works. So, your background and what maybe how you what led you to bringing Rose Doucette to the world?
Life and Death of Rose Doucette is my ninth crime thriller. My first one came out in May of 2005, so it's coming up on 20 years. I can't believe it's been
Oh,
that
wow.
long.
Yeah,
Thank
congrats. You
you.
keep on trucking.
Seems like yesterday, but it has actually been a long time ago. Uh,
Mhm.
Rose Doucette came about because I wanted to write another detective story, and I wanted to do something a little more in depth about who the main character was and the motivations that kept him into a case rather than just the case of the week type of thing. So I wanted something that had some depth and had some meaning for him. And I settled on investigating the murder of his ex-wife.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's that motivation. He needs that motivation other than just catching yeah, like case of the week, like you said,
Right.
just catching a crook or investigating a crime, and the fact that he needs to clear his name. Obviously, he still, cares about her, and he's, reflecting on their past
Right.
because this is
So
the first time.
he still has
Yeah.
feelings for her. And he
Yeah.
doesn't know that until he gets into the case. And quite frankly, I didn't know it until I started writing the book that he still was a little unresolved something about how she had left him. She just up and left him 3 years before the book started, just like out of the blue. Like he had no idea what was happening. Like, what? I thought we had a good thing going. And then she's just gone. And he's still grieving the loss of his marriage, I think is the way to put it.
Yeah, and we like, you throw us in there in the first chapter, it's he's meeting her, like, and he's this is out of the blue, I haven't spoken to her in 3 years, like,
Yeah,
he's and I imagine, like, he thought he moved on, and then he was like, "Oh, just kidding, like, there's still something going on here,"
right.
and I don't like, I just imagine how just getting setting the tone and getting into the psyche of who he is, and the fact that he's now working in the private sector too. I'm not into the public sector anymore. He's not official law enforcement, but he's still got like the set of skills and he's still putting them to good use and he's still trying to make his own life, even though when we meet him, he doesn't really have a permanent residence, or at least that's
Well,
just I got
yeah,
he's kind of bouncing around.
he is not really. I think he had a house with her, but he hasn't really moved on. That was part of his situation. He's in a transient state of mind, in a transient place physically and emotionally because of her, because of the loss of his marriage.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it's just I mean, I don't know, I can't relate, thankfully,
I
I'm
can't either.
married,
I can't either. Right.
yeah, we just celebrated 10 years, but it's just setting the tone, just, yeah, this is gonna be serious, and we just get the idea of Dylan as a character, he's meeting his ex-wife, and then she's asking for his help, and then, it's like slowly the reader discovers with him, like, he didn't know he didn't there's a lot that she didn't even tell anybody, and she also lied to him in that
Right.
meeting, didn't
Right.
tell him out all the truth about everything, and so I just yeah, it was very cool, very clever, and I liked meeting Dylan like that.
Good.
I thought it was
Thank
really
you.
yeah, it just engaged me right away. Also, like I said, I'm a sucker for suspense, so if you do it right, it's just okay where I'm in it, and it's hard it's okay, "Come on, Dylan, let's find this out." So, publishing Rose Doucette, was that did that experience differ than, like, any of your previous works? Did you approach it the same? Were there any things that you learned from previous publishing experiences that transferred over, stuff like that?
Gosh, no one's asked me that. I have to stop and think about that. That's a great question. The publisher is Ocean View, and they've been wonderful throughout. I learned to pay attention when everybody talks about marketing and things like that, and have gotten savvy about that. But also at the same time, the book is what it is, and we can market it, we can do what it is. But so many books come out every year, every month that you have to send that baby out there into the world and let it go and see what happens. I've learned over the years to be a little more zen about the whole process.
Yeah, I think that's healthy.
I was not zen early on. I got to go do this. I was very uptight
Yeah,
about it, and that's you gotta do what you can. You've got to do as much promotions as you can, and
yeah.
then work on the next one, or think about the next, or work on whatever you're working on.
Yeah, no, that's really yeah, that makes so much sense because it's not your debut, like, where you're fresh out a little I don't know what a good term for that is, a young buck or whatever in the publishing world. But yeah, you're like you're little seasons, you've got 20 years under your belt, you've got 9 books under your belt, and yeah, I imagine you're used to it's not your first
It's
rodeo.
not my
You
first
gotta like
rodeo. It's like
yeah, you gotta
it feels
and
like
just like you yeah. And you drive yourself nuts if you weren't I always joke around with authors, I'm like, "You're not supposed to read your reviews,
no,
right?"
I
Like
do all
like,
the time. Yeah,
otherwise yeah, after a while, you're just like, I don't know, you know how to take constructive
right.
criticism by now, even though it's like you released another baby into the world and you just gotta, "Okay." Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, are all of your so you do only write crime thrillers or crime fiction, or have you dabbled into other
That's it. The broad strokes of crime fiction. Yes, that's the
Okay.
only thing.
Can you talk about, like, what draws you to that genre? And I don't know, I imagine it can be tricky to, like, keep a fresh take on it or keep trying something new, keep challenging yourself, stuff like
You got to
that.
keep challenging yourself, which is always tricky. I'm drawn to it because it's what I read growing up, and I devoured in crime fiction. I read a lot of, broadly speaking, uh, espionage novels and spy novels are crime fiction. So I read a lot of that too. And so I am drawn to what I've read. I read a lot of other stuff too, but this is really where my heart is with these types of stories. And there's a lot of darkness in the human heart that comes out through various crimes. So there's a lot of stuff to mine out there still.
Yeah, I imagine. That kinda brings me, like, not piggybacking off of that, how does it like, you approach the research, or do you have to do a lot of research, or does it when you have to clarify some stuff, would your Google search history alarm any authorities out there?
So I have an interesting Google search history. I do admit that. I typically, my whole life is research. I don't have an idea and then goes, I'm going to go research that idea. I read voraciously. I read novels, but I also read nonfiction. I consume a lot of news media. I read newspapers. I don't read them like paper versions anymore, but I read a lot of newspapers online. I'm a big sponge, and always have been. And that all goes inside you. And then at some point, you're thinking about a story and you go, what about that thing I read? I don't remember where I read it, but what if that was in this book? And, that kind of research, but not specific to a book. Now, with Rose Doucette, I did more research for that book than I've ever done. And I talked to 3 or 4 police officers, and then a former U.S. attorney who's a friend who gave me a lot of insight into the way the criminal justice system works. And because I want to get some courtroom stuff that's involved in the story, and I want to get that right or close to it, and hopefully I did.
Hmm.
So there's more research in this book than I did more research for this book than I've ever done
Oh,
beyond
okay.
beyond the Google, Mr. Google.
Yeah. Oh, that must have been so cool, though. Was there anything surprising or fascinating that like you were surprised to learn?
Not. I should say, oh my gosh, I learned this great fact, but no, there wasn't. I was just like, I knew a lot of the stuff and I had an idea of what I wanted to do. And the people I talked to shaped how it would be, but there wasn't anything really surprising. It's got an element of a police procedural in it, a little bit. We all know broad strokes how police operate and how the courtrooms operate, but I wanted to get some of the details down, so there weren't too many surprises for me.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point since you said you're naturally reading the news and keeping up with current events or like crime and all that's just like natural. You're naturally inclined to do that. That's a part of like your routine or whatever, or that's what interests you. So that makes sense that you wouldn't really find anything too surprising while you're like talking to the industry professionals
Right.
and just trying to get clarification, make it authentic and believable, all that good stuff. Yeah. No, I'm right there with you with the whole I don't know, because I read so many books and I like asking authors that, like, what draws you to the genre, and a lot of them have the same answers as, "No, that's just what I love, that's just what I like to read, so that's why I like to write it," and it makes so much sense because it's I could tell that you're enjoying the story that you're telling
Yeah.
and the art
Good.
of storytelling.
Good.
Like, if you're not into it, like, the reader will
Oh
kinda
my
pick
gosh.
that
Yeah,
up.
they will pick up on that.
100%, 'cause I know, 'cause I obviously, I'm a sucker for romance, but then I'm like, "Oh, historical fiction." I'm like, the more I read, the more I enjoy that. And then there's been, like, memoirs where I'm like, you never know what you're gonna get with a memoir." But there have been a handful of memoirs where I'm like, "No, like, I wanna know about you and what you have to say and how you're gonna say it." So yeah, this is like an example. You're right there, you're right on par with so many people that I speak to about what they enjoy, and that's, like, what they grew up reading Agatha Christie, and that's why they write murder
Right.
mysteries. I'm like, "That's amazing. I love it. I love it." So we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty here. You approach a lot of dark themes, so you don't shy away from it. Was there like a process, like because there's sexual assault, child sexual assault, murder, corruption, all that kind of content warning worthy type of stuff. So how did you like psych yourself up? How did you approach it? I'm guessing since you write with this genre, you're used to it. I just want to explore like how you approach that, how you navigate that.
So that all the dark themes, which I don't want to get too into because some of them might be spoilers, but all of the dark themes in there
Sure.
came from the character in the story, and it's these bad things that have happened to this person, Rose Doucette, and that's I don't believe in approaching a work of fiction from a place of theme. The theme ends up being there, but I believe in approaching a work of fiction from the characters, and then the plot
Mm,
comes from the plot, and the story comes from the characters, and then at the end of the day, you've got a theme. But some of the dark stuff is dark things happen in the world, and you need to talk about it, and I think shine a light on it, and I think that helps somewhere. Maybe, hopefully, some dark things not happen. I tell myself that. I don't know if I believe that. But.
yeah, because as we're getting to know Dylan and like his connections and the people who he's like in his network and who he's talking to, we get like little sprinkled of his background and his past career and past cases that he's worked on, and yeah, a lot of it's messed up and unfortunately shows like that the worst of humanity, if you will.
Yes.
And it's yeah, it can be like but it's real, right? Like that's human. Unfortunately, I think a lot of it's just human nature, like free will, whatever you want to call it. We could get into, we would be down a rabbit hole. I feel like if we got in too deep into that, but yeah, it's that's why I think it's important not to shy away from it, but then also treat it with respect
Mhm.
and sensitivity. Because you certainly didn't do that. At least I didn't get the impression that you did it for like shock value.
Oh
You were
no, not at
being
all.
gritty for gritty's sake. You were
I've done
just
it
kind of
before
like,
for shock value. Don't worry, don't trust me on that, but I
yeah.
did not do it on this book. I wanted it to. I mean, I felt like everything happened fairly organically in this book.
Yeah, yeah, and I can think that's what I, because it was a book that I just finished that came out recently as well. It was The Slate by Matthew Fitzsimmons, and what it
Yeah,
was unique was because yeah, it was good. I really
I haven't
liked
read
it.
it, but I know him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just thought it was interesting because it started out with the reader, we know the crime, and then and the prologue, and then we're watching the characters unfold everything.
Uh huh.
And so I thought that was unique. So like it reminds me of, yeah, you can go different ways with that, but it's like I think I enjoyed more that we were finding out with Dylan and with Tito. Like we were just, and poor Tito, I'm gonna jump all over the place a little bit. He was a hot mess,
Yeah,
understandably.
he was.
You
He is and
know,
was a hot mess.
yeah, and I love, like, how Dylan was just, "Fuck's sake." He was
Right.
just like he had this attitude, "Okay, yeah, I know," and then he was like, "What are you doing?" He's, "Oh, because this poor guy, he's drowning, doing a little liquid therapy,"
Well, liquid
and
therapy. So for your listeners who haven't read the book, Tito is Rose's current husband, and Tito stole Rose away from Dylan, the main character, and so they're the two that don't like each other and end up having to work together. And Tito is a hot mess. He's a
yeah.
nice guy. I like him though. He's a fun guy.
I did, and he was just, like, understandably just so human about it. Of course he doesn't, and he thinks that his wife's ex-husband did it.
Right
Just
now, the guy, yeah,
he's shoot first, ask questions later. He is just like ready to, he's emotional and he's heartbroken and he's grieving and he's ah, you did it. And then because it is, for to be fair with Tito, it's yeah, unfortunately, Dylan, like all signs point to you. Like it's where the circumstances lay, it's easy for people to, anybody outside the box, to assume that okay, like what, there's the proof there, evidence, boom, like case closed. And it's, and poor Dylan, like the reader, at least for me, I was like, no, Dylan, like dude, it's because we got like obstinate cops and law enforcement, and then we've got people chasing them everywhere they go, trying to shut it down, trying to shut the investigation down, trying to shut people up. And it's just when you think they're gonna get a breakthrough, nope, just kidding, done. Like that person is unable to provide details anymore, and it's
right,
just yeah, and so that's there, like I'm just gonna keep, like, rambling on, but I think that was just, like, what I enjoyed so much is because it's just, like, the battle of the characters, like, just comparing, like, what they're going through and how they're handling us, like, this situation from their perspectives, and they absolutely do not wanna work together. They would love nothing more than to never be in the
right,
same
right.
room with one another, and unfortunately, they have to, like, go because I got the impression that Dylan, he needed Tito's help, and Tito had no choice but to trust Dylan, and it just adds for, like, another layer
Yeah,
of nitpicking, character development, and just adding all these variables into this situation where I'm just like, I'm rooting for the both of them, but I'm also like, I don't mind that their little their differences are holding them back too. I just love that. I love it. It was such a unique dynamic. So I'm gonna throw this at you. What were the most challenging parts to write, and then what were the most enjoyable parts to write?
the most challenging part to write on this was the outline. I did a really full, long outline for this book, and that helped immensely. And so the enjoyable parts were getting up every morning and knowing what I was going to be writing. That's
Okay.
that,
Are you usually a pantser or you don't
no,
usually outline?
I like to know the ending, but this time I knew the ending, the beginning, and 90% of the middle. That certainly helps. That's I've tried just winging it, and that's not very pleasant for people around me or for myself. So the most pleasant part, the hardest part was doing the outline, but that certainly paid off, I think.
Yeah, 'cause when I talk to other authors, they're like the same where they're like, "Oh, I'm usually a pantser or I'm like a little bit of both." And it's, I don't know if you don't. If it's not broken, don't
Yeah,
fix it. If your
most
process
authors are a little
works.
bit of both, really. Truth
Yeah.
be told.
Yeah. But I guess, yeah, like with a crime thriller, crime fiction, like you have to have some sort of
Right,
organization
right,
because the way that you're feeding the details to the reader is like you have to be smart about it. You have to be and make it engaging and make it not too elusive and make it like under because I don't know. I tell people this all the time, even with not just with reading, but like with watching TV or movies with my husband. We joke around because he's the opposite, where I don't always catch on right away. I don't always predict the ending or predict the twists. Which I'm fine with. I'm fine with that's how I absorb entertainment where that's my experience.
right.
I'm okay with that. But with my husband, he can like he's just, "Oh, what? Like, she has to earn her freedom," or "Oh, I bet it was a sister. Watch, it's a sister." Like, what? I just stuff like that where he can call it, and I just joke around with him. I'm like, "Go sit in like a focus group or something. Like, go sit in a writer's room and give your feedback and be like, that's too predictable or whatever." But because I don't know, we have a routine where we like watch our shows or we watch a movie like after the kids go to bed. We're like, okay, because we're like our kids are still young. They're like 3 and 7. So that we're still like
Right.
cherishing the after bed hours. Yeah. That's when we wind down and relax. And we watch our shows that we keep up with. And that's what it just, it doesn't irritate me anymore. But sometimes I'm just like rolling my eyes because I'm like, okay, like you're spoiling it for me now. Okay. But then I'm like, that's much sweeter when he's wrong. Just, all right. They didn't get you. They got you this time. Oh, what was your most did you I don't know if you answered the question, your most challenging parts to write?
Probably the outline itself, like trying to break
Okay.
the story. That was the hardest part. That's I
Yeah.
did that all beforehand.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, okay. But then once you got it
So
down
I don't know. All books are hard to write.
yeah.
Some books are harder than others. This one was one of the less hard ones, and I think it's because I had a pretty clear story engine, which was Dylan and Tito having to work together, though they hated each other. And I did an outline, and I think that helped a lot. Not hard.
Yeah, so then you started out with the idea of the current and the ex working together started it off? Okay. That makes sense because I just yeah, I'm gonna repeat myself. I just thought it was really unique and
Wonderful.
that was
Thank you.
awesome. I don't know, maybe I love it when authors put their characters through it.
They went through it. They sure did.
They just throw them in the most like it's frustrating situations or okay, are they gonna get out of it? Or especially if it's a character who usually they're known for having their shit together, they're known for being serious and on top of their work, on top of their job, and they're like Superman at what they do. But then when you throw them in an uncomfortable situation or ruffle their feathers, I love it. I'm here for it. I'm just like so that was like having such a serious character like Dylan and arguably Tito. Like I imagine if we met him, the readers met him in any other situation, he would be just as serious and not no nonsense, but he would just be like, "Oh, this guy's got it together." But the fact that you're just throwing them and they're just like, ugh. And he even said, "Oh, just so you know, we didn't do anything until you were divorced." And Dylan's, "Dude, save it. I don't believe you. Just stop." And those little moments that juxtaposing those calm moments with the seriousness of the situation, almost like a little bonding or a little
Right.
bit of
And I
yeah.
needed to make Tito likable at some point because he couldn't be this marriage breaker, this guy who broke up a marriage. So he needed to have some likability in there.
Yeah, yeah. Something that I thought about earlier that I wanted to point out was that Rose, even though she's on the page for such a short amount of time, like it's her
It is
book.
her book. Yeah.
Like yeah,
So we
like
see
she
her.
is such a character like
Yeah. So
postmortem. She is
spoiler,
just
everybody, she dies in like chapter two. The book is called "The Life and Death of Rose Doucette." It happens like in chapter two, but so you see her from the point of view of the main point of view character, which is Dylan, but you also see her from Dylan's interaction with her current husband Tito, and then with both of them as they go and interview people and talk to people that knew her over the course of her life. That's you really get a sense of who she is and a picture of what she was like, and they piece together this tapestry of who Rose Doucette was. And I think they come to respect her more at the end. I know Dylan does, and I think Tito does too. They
mhm.
come to have a deeper admiration and respect for her at the end of the book, even though she's long dead.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's yeah, as a reader, I didn't necessarily see her as, even though we're essentially, I can't remember, is this a first person or a third
First person,
person?
yeah, first person.
First
Dylan's
person.
first person.
Yeah, so we're seeing this through like Dylan's eyes, but and he doesn't, you could tell he's like mixed feelings about his ex-wife, but as we like go through the book, it's I respected, I didn't think of her as an adulterer. I thought of her as she's a professional first. I got that we meet, I guess it's arguable that we meet Rose like on the job. Like she can't let go of this thing. She's been asked to stay off of it. As for so far we know at first, and then it's she doesn't outright say, or she's really wishy-washy about her connection to the case. And for my first perspective, my first impression was like, okay, she's this is eating her up. She's no nonsense. It's something's going on. And she's a professional. She's like the career oriented. We get career oriented Rose. And then it was really interesting to learn about her through Dylan's eyes, and also through Dylan, through other people's that who he speaks with, their perspective as
Right,
well. And so it's yeah, like this is very much her book. This is very much her getting to know Rose and getting to know who she was and why she is the focus, and why even there was like a why something from 20 years ago is all of a sudden being
right.
resurfaced right now. Yeah, absolutely. I know. It was just like so many of these. I don't know the twist. Obviously, we're not gonna get. I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody because I think everybody should come into this not knowing a damn thing. Obviously, because of those little reveals until the very end, it just gets that much sweeter. But yeah, it was just like I said, the way I absorb information, the way I absorb entertainment, the twist cut for me, it came out of
Oh, good,
nowhere. But then
wonderful,
it was
great.
yeah, so I can't speak with for other readers, but that's how it was for me. And I think that's why this book like just left that much of an impression on me, because it was just like I said, I'm a sucker for suspense, and it was delivered well, and I could tell that you were 20 years in the game, and you knew, I bet if I read like your first published work, it would be like so different than this one.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think it might be. Yeah, maybe. Dare I say I'm getting
Or like your
older? I don't know.
evolution of yourself as a writer,
Pardon?
like your evolution
Yeah,
for your like your
you
writing
have
channel.
to evolve. You have to evolve, and you have to push yourself. Otherwise, it's stagnation. You have to grow. There is no plateau. You have to keep going upward or farther, whatever metaphor you want to use. Otherwise, you're just stagnating. I'm always trying to look for push a little bit more in something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important because otherwise, like, you get bored. And as an author, as a writer, you're putting that on yourself. Nobody's holding you to that standard. It's you
Right,
who's holding
right.
yourself to that standard. Yeah. Yeah, 'cause I think about this too, because I'm like, I don't know if an author is like your day job. I don't know if you have any in your previous career. Were you doing any, or what was your original
I was a
background in?
commercial real estate appraiser for
Okay.
30 some odd years. Yeah.
That I did not
Didn't
expect
see that
that.
one
I
coming.
did not
That's for people who find accounting
no.
too exciting. That's the joke. Yeah, that's what I tell everybody.
That's amazing. So how did you make that switch, or
Well,
why?
I mean,
Are you
I've
still doing that?
always wanted to be a writer. I knew from an early age I wanted to be a writer, and I bought a bunch. I've read over the year. I read everything over the years, but I read a lot of how to write books over the years. And one day I realized you really ought to write a book because you're reading these books about how to write a book, and you've been reading books forever. And maybe there's a message in all that you should get on it. And this was around the early part of the 2000s. We just had a millennium change, new decade, new century, new millennium. I'm like, time for a fresh start and all that stuff. So I thought, and I realized you get to a certain age too. I don't know if you're old enough to have gotten there, but where you realize,
I'm 37. I have no qualms about people knowing him.
but
So.
about that age, you start to realize that there's not that many days left. There's plenty of days left, but
Mm,
there's a finite number.
mm,
And when you're 27, you think you're going to live forever. At 37, you're like, yeah, but so I figured I better get on it. It's interesting. I
yeah.
think I know a number of people who have come to writing roughly it's my same age for roughly the same reasons. They just realize, wow, I've always wanted to do this. I better get on it. And so that's where I came on. That's how I came about.
Yeah, because I think I've seen this. piece of advice in multiple places. It's just the time is going to pass anyway. Like
Exactly. Exactly. Why not write a book?
10 years down the line, you'll be at the same spot or you'll be
Or you
further
will have tried.
as you.
Try at least. If you fail, you
Yeah,
go, I tried and I failed, but you will not, there won't be any regrets for not trying.
100%. Because I'm like, I have a 9 to 5 and I work in marketing, but like I started out as being majoring in English, thinking I was going to be a teacher, thinking that, oh, because I'm like familiar and confident with the written word and
Right.
how to instruct. But then I was like, no, I need students, children need that enthusiasm and they need to be a teacher. Like that profession, you need people who are like so passionate about it. And my passion wasn't there. But luckily, I was able to dabble into like web content writing. And
Okay.
so it was like, okay, I'm gonna get in the internet when it was, I don't know, it was like 2009 when I was like, and the internet was so different than it is now. The rules keep on changing. The algorithms keep on changing. People absorb information. They interact with the internet and with media different ways. And then technology and the media, like they react to people. Like it's all changing. So it's just, I think there was definitely, at the time, I was like, oh my god, this is a disaster. What am I going to do? But now I'm like, in retrospect, I'm like, no, like it was an okay move. And that's why it's, yeah, like you reflect on that when you're like, no, I'm glad I started, right? You're like, no, I'm glad. And look at where you are. Look at where you are right now that you finally did it. And you're like almost 10 books later.
I know. And I can't believe it. I can't.
Yeah, I can. If I'm reading your book, I can believe it.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So just a few more
All right.
questions before we wrap up here. So I'm going to throw this at you. What is your advice for Dylan? What's your advice for Tito?
Oh my gosh. What's my advice for Dylan is I can't say because it spoils the very ending, but don't screw up any more relationships. He didn't screw up his relationship with Rose. But my advice for Dylan is to recognize the goodness you've got in your life. And for Tito is don't go and marry somebody you meet instantly. Just stay out of the bars. Don't have a rebound marriage because I can see him doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, yeah. Too many days spent in a lunch hour, too many daytime
Boozy lunch
drinking.
hours at whatever club he goes to. He's liable to end up with something. He's liable to end up in a bad relationship, and I don't want that. I don't want that
Yeah.
for Tito.
We don't want him to repeat being a homewrecker.
Right? Or that. Exactly.
Exactly. Okay, so what is next for you? Are you working on anything that you could talk
I'm
about?
working on something. I'm not really talking about it. It's another crime thriller, obviously, and yeah, that,
It's okay. No, that's
that's
okay.
it.
I don't wanna get you
That's
in
it.
trouble. I don't wanna ruin your flow or get you in trouble.
I've got a screenplay I'm working on too. I've got some people looking at that, a crime thriller, and then I had a short film out last year that made the festival circuit that was fun, and I was hoping something would come of that, but it hasn't yet. But I never can tell.
Oh, is it available anywhere that, like, we can check
It
it out
is
or.
somewhere. It is available for download. I will tell you the pitch on it. I should have a link on my website to it. It's I don't. I have to ask the director for that. But it's a crime thriller, and it's a short film. I wrote my first produced film, and so it's only 9 minutes long. But it's about a hitman with irritable bowel syndrome.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and so the title is right. Are you ready for the title?
Sorry.
It's
Yes.
called Shit Squad.
Oh my
But the
goodness.
S is in parentheses. So you look at it and go, Shahid Squad?
Hit
What now? Yeah.
Wait, or hit squads.
So that's what I did last year.
Oh my
Right.
god, and that's not written a
It's
novel or
not a
short
book,
story
not a short
anymore, that's
story. It was a total
only
original
short
idea I
film?
did as a short film, and then I was very fortunate
I'm
to have it
gonna
produced.
I'm gonna Google that. I'm gonna
If
write
you
that in
Google
my
it,
notes.
I'll send you a link to it. But if you Google it, I think you can probably find a link. But I'll send you a link.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's hilarious, like a hitman who's IBS. So was that like, have you ever done anything like that before? Like, dabbled into TV or film
I write.
or like visual versus
Yeah, it's a
written?
weird thing. I have gotten in a habit of writing screenplays between books because a book is like running a marathon, and then you stop and you have a cool down phase, and so you want to keep going a little bit. So I do that with screenplays because they stretch different muscles. That's the way I look at
Mm.
it, and I enjoy writing screenplays. too. It's
So, you do it just for fun, or you do it like you work with a team where it's gonna hopefully go
I
somewhere?
do it for fun, and then I
Okay.
have occasionally I get producers to read them, and one producer wanted to produce the short film, but others the feature length stuff has not gone anywhere. But
Mm.
that's a hard thing to break into.
Yeah, yeah, because I imagine there's so many people out there who have so many good ideas, and it just doesn't quite hit the mainstream, or it just doesn't get the ball rolling because people like, I guess it's similar with publishers. They're like, "Oh, what's gonna get the most numbers?" And so yeah, that's a shame. I just no, because I'm right there with you where it's like, "Oh, what's this is interesting and this is definitely entertaining," but if you don't have enough people behind it or enough support, it's what are you gonna do? And no, I'm gonna have to look that up, but yeah, or if you wanna send me
I'll
the
send it
link
to
and
you. Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
yeah, that was perfect, yeah, so
Yeah,
just have
Megan
my,
at cantinabookclub.com. All
yeah,
right.
perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Harry Hunsicker, where can we find you online and on
You can
social media?
find me on X and Instagram. Harry Hunsicker, all one word, is my username. And then email you can find me where what I'm doing, what I'm up to at my website, which is harryhunsicker.com. HARYHUNSICKER.com.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, and I'll also include all those good links in the show notes as well. So Harry, thank you so much for
Thanks
joining
for
me
having me.
today. Thank
Yeah.
you for
Big fun.
absolutely. Yeah, I like I said, I recommend this book to suspense crime fiction
Great.
lovers. And yeah, definitely I just you did it really well. And if and when you publish or work on your next work, I'd be happy to chat
Yeah, I'd
again.
love to. Thank you. It's a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
And there you go. That was Harry Hunsicker talking about the life and death of Rose Doucette. That book is available now. Go ahead and pick it up for all you crime fiction and suspense thriller lovers out there. I really guarantee that you'll enjoy it. Check out the show notes where you can find links to purchase the book and where you can find Harry online and on social media. Check out Cantina Book Club, rate, review, subscribe online and on social media as well. If you need book recommendations, check out cantinabookclub.com. I'm always writing reviews and posting reviews. And also TikTok and YouTube. I'm always trying to find new ways to reach readers and let you guys know what up and coming books are and what I think of them. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening.